There's a cabin at Camp Alder Hollow that isn't supposed to be there. I've seen what's carved into the wall inside it. I still don't know how to explain it, or why it knew to wait for me. I took the night watch job because it paid double what any other seasonal work in the county offered. I was 26, broke, and I didn't ask enough questions before I signed the contract. I should have. Camp Alder Hollow sits about 40 minutes past the last gas station, at the end of a dirt road that the county stopped maintaining years ago. 6 cabins, a main house, a generator shed, and a tree line that goes back for miles in every direction. I'd left a lot behind to take this job. A relationship that had ended badly, a lease I couldn't afford anymore, a version of myself I wasn't proud of. Camp Alder Hollow felt like a clean slate, far enough from everything that nobody could find me, quiet enough that I could finally think. The other seasonal staff wouldn't arrive until the week before camp officially opened, so for most of that summer, it was just me and Weller on the property. He kept to himself in the main house, and I kept to the cabins and the generator shed, and neither of us asked the other too many questions. The camp director, an older man named Weller, walked me through my duties on my first evening. Most of it was standard work: check the gate, log the generator hours, make sure the perimeter lights worked, note anything unusual in the logbook. He talked fast and businesslike, the way people do when they've explained the same thing 100 times before and stopped caring how it sounded. I nodded along, barely listening. Then he stopped walking. His voice changed, quieter, slower. "There's one more thing," he said. "The most important thing. And I need you to actually listen to this part. Every night, before you log off, you walk the loop and you count the cabins. 6 cabins, 6 counts. Out loud if you have to. Point the flashlight at each one until you've said the number." I laughed, thinking it was some kind of hazing ritual for new hires. Weller didn't laugh. His face didn't move at all. "I'm not joking with you," he said. "This is the only rule that matters here. If you ever count 7... He stopped himself mid-sentence, like the words had caught somewhere in his throat. He started again, slower. "If you ever count 7, you turn around. You walk straight back to the main house. You do not look to see which one is extra," he said. "You do not go closer. You do not ask why. You just walk away, and you don't look back until you're inside with the door locked." I asked him what would happen if I did look. He just stared at me for a long moment, like he was deciding whether I was worth the answer. "Just count 6, he finally said. "Every night. That's all I'm asking you to do." Then he added something I didn't understand until much later. "The rule doesn't stop it from wanting you," he said. "It just decides whether you ever have to find out." I thought that was just an old man being dramatic. The first week, nothing happened. 6 cabins, every single night, no matter how tired I was or how fast I wanted the shift to end. I started to think Weller was just an old man who'd gotten a little too attached to his own rules. There were no campers yet. The season hadn't started, and my job for those first weeks was mostly prep work. Fixing fences, clearing brush, painting the mess hall. The nights were quiet, almost peaceful, and the counting became easy, automatic. By the second week, I'd stopped really counting. I'd just glance down the loop, confirm 6 dark shapes against the tree line, and keep walking. It became routine. Background noise like checking a lock you already know is locked.
One night, walking back from the generator shed, I thought I heard something behind me that wasn't quite footsteps and wasn't quite wind. I turned around, and there was nothing there, just the cabins, dark and still, exactly 6 of them. I didn't mention it to Weller. I told myself it was a raccoon, or my own boots on gravel, or nothing at all. Looking back, I think some part of me already knew that was the wrong thing to tell myself. Then the storm came. Mid-July, a system rolled in off the ridge that the Weather Service hadn't predicted, fast and violent, the kind that turns the dirt road into a river within an hour. Weller had driven into town for supplies that afternoon and hadn't made it back before the roads flooded, which meant the property was mine alone that night. Rain, wind, and a fog so thick you couldn't see past your own flashlight beam. The generator flickered twice, and I had to reset it manually, which put me almost an hour behind on my rounds.
That night, doing my rounds felt different from the start. The fog swallowed the flashlight beam after only a few feet. I could barely see the cabin directly in front of me, let alone the whole loop stretched out ahead. I started counting anyway because the rule didn't have an exception for weather. 1, 2, 3. The rain made it hard to keep my place, hard to tell where one dark shape ended and the fog began. 4, 5, 6. I exhaled, relief flooding through me, and turned to head back toward the main house. And then the fog shifted, just for a second, thinning enough that I saw a 7th shape sitting at the edge of the tree line. I remember Weller's voice immediately. Turn around, walk back. Don't look to see which one is extra. I remember it word for word, clear as if he were standing next to me, and I didn't listen to a single syllable of it. Looking back, I think being alone that night was part of why I broke the rule. There was no one else to see me hesitate at that door, no one to talk me out of it, nothing louder in my head than my own curiosity. I told myself it was a maintenance shed I'd never noticed, something the previous night watch had just never mentioned. I told myself a lot of convenient things on that walk through the rain, each one a little more absurd than the last. The 7th shape was a cabin, identical to the other 6 in every way. Same wood siding, same pitched roof, same dark windows staring out at nothing. Except it didn't belong. I knew every inch of that camp, and I had never once seen this cabin before tonight. I stood in front of the door for longer than I should have, flashlight shaking slightly in my hand, rain running down the back of my collar. Then I reached out and put my hand against the wood, and the door swung open before I'd even pushed it. Inside, it was completely empty. No beds, no furniture. Not even dust settled the way it should be in an abandoned building. Just bare wooden floor, and carved into the far wall, over and over, floor to ceiling, was one word. My name. Not initials, not a nickname. My full name, carved dozens of times in dozens of different handwriting styles, like it had been written by different people across different years, all of them writing the exact same thing. I don't remember running back to the main house. I don't remember the rest of the storm at all. I just remember waking up at my desk the next morning, soaking wet, with mud on my boots I couldn't explain how I'd tracked in. The first thing I did was walk the loop again, in daylight this time. 6 cabins. Just 6. No 7th, no maintenance shed,
Nothing standing where I remembered that door had been the night before. I found Weller in the mess hall and asked him, as calmly as I could manage, if he had ever counted 7. He looked at me for a long time before answering, like he was measuring exactly how much of the truth I could handle. "Twice," he finally said. "The first time, I turned around, just like the rule says. The second time, I didn't." He didn't explain what happened after that, and something about his face told me not to ask him to. I asked him one more question before he could walk away. I asked him what happens to the people who look and don't turn away. He didn't answer. He just picked up his coffee and left the room. I still work night watch at Camp Alder Hollow. Every night I walk the loop, and I count 6 cabins, just like the rule says. And every night, some small part of me hopes I'll count 7 again. Because now I know something Weller never fully explained. The cabin doesn't wait for someone who counts wrong. It waits for whoever it already has a name carved for. The counting was never what protected me. Not knowing was.